Welcome, everyone, to the Unstoppable podcast. I'm Matthew Gould from Unstoppable, and today I'm joined by Diana Chen from Startup Happy Hour podcast. So, Diana, welcome. Glad to have you on today.
Thanks so much, Matt. I'm really excited to be here.
So, one of our missions here is to bring more people into the blockchain and cryptocurrency space, to teach them about what's happening on the decentralized web and these new tools and technologies. And so Diana has been nice enough to offer to be our guinea pig today. So I appreciate her coming on. And she's got a list of questions, and she's just going to try to drill down and really get a better understanding of what is the decentralized web. Why should I care about this as an end user? and I know everyone in crypto has these conversations with their friends and family. The first time I told my parents about Bitcoin back in 2013, my dad was essentially like, "Why are you buying internet currency for drugs?" And so we've come a long way in the past, 7 years on that topic. And you can see that there are a lot of use cases for blockchains and crypto more generally, but it's still in its infancy and it's still really confusing to a lot of people. There's a lot of parts that don't make any sense. And so it's good to step back and just have new eyes. So again, Diana, thanks for being here. I think you're a great guest for this. You've actually asked questions about all sorts of crazy startups on your own show. So you're used to diving in and trying to get information about new emerging tech. So I think you're the perfect person to help others like yourself learning about the space.
Thanks so much, Matt. What an intro. Thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate it. I've had some conversations very briefly with you about what you do and about the decentralized web. And all of this is really new to me. I'm not even in the crypto space. And I know you said most people that care about the decentralized web are crypto users. I did buy crypto several years back, and then I just got tired of keeping up with it and trying to figure out what the hell is going on with any of this. So I just sold it. It was like, good riddance to the crypto world. But here I am, and I'm really curious to learn a lot about this. I think a lot of people out there are like me. They're not really users of crypto yet, but they have a lot of curiosity around all of this. So I'm really excited for the opportunity to be here and pick your brain about what all of this is.
Yeah,
so,
well, go ahead. I'll let you go.
Well, sorry. I just got too excited. I'm jumping right on in. But for my first question is just, what is the decentralized web?
Well, fundamentally, it's a new way to incentivize users on the internet. And one of the first things that the people do is they go and they just buy some cryptocurrency to play around with, just like you did. And then I know a lot of people who bought in at the top of the last bubble, 2017, 2018, and then they watched the price of their cryptocurrency drop, and then they just sold it because they're like, I'm done with this. And there's a lot of excitement around the speculation in crypto and crypto assets in general. And it's because it's new, right? And it's new. It's a very small market. And there's a lot of people just playing around. They don't really know what they're doing. And I think most people, when they think about Bitcoin, all they know is that it's very volatile and it moves up and down a lot. And that's basically the end of their knowledge. So that's the unfortunate part. I would actually say that the fact that the prices of cryptocurrency have gone up so much and that so many people have made money in this space is actually a deterrent for really getting user education. What's happening at the very bottom is we are giving people the ability to set up new relationships online, and by having incentive structures for them to interact with each other. So, and in the very far future, what we want to be able to do is build more markets for people to exchange goods and information online in order to make money. So I'm talking about content producers. I'm talking about consumers sharing their information. And with the technologies that don't use blockchain, it's just too expensive to set that up. And so we've come up with the ad model. Everyone knows that the main model for making money online is to sell ads. The biggest companies sell ads. Google sells ads. Facebook sells ads. And that makes the whole structure of the internet is for these really large companies to sell ads. And if you think about it, at the very heart of that, why are they selling ads? It's because they needed a way to aggregate a bunch of really small transactions from having 1 million people visit the New York Times website, right? And in order to make a payment, so they could sell an ad for like a couple $1,000s, because they couldn't collect, 1/10 of a penny from you and 1/10 of a penny from another guy. So the way that they solved this problem back in the 90s was when they had a website and the very first search engines and the very first portal pages, they're like, we can't charge the users to see this content. Why don't we just charge these companies to place ads on the internet? And that unfortunately has now turned into like a really weird dystopia, where the entire internet is now incentivized to get as much ads as possible, right, in front of your face, and then to direct you down different funnels to purchase products or watch content or something like that. And the internet is not built to maximize the user experience. And so this is something that I mentioned on a previous podcast. And because you have essentially the internet is built for companies to make as much money as possible instead of built to deliver as much value as possible to end users, the whole system feels broken. And that's why when you're online and you're scrolling through your different social accounts, you feel a little gross. And like, if you're thinking to yourself, like, why is this ad following me around the internet? Why is this like the sixth time I've seen this? Why does this news station only show me things that make me angry to click through links and things like that? And the reason is because you're not the customer. Those big companies that are buying the ads are the customer. So the whole internet from that everything is built on this advertising model, and that's where at least the vast majority of this money is coming from. And that's why your user experience online is poor.
Okay, so I totally get that. I watched The Social Dilemma. I get that we're just pawns in a chess game. Nobody actually cares about us. I get all of that. That's a huge problem. So how does the decentralized web solve that problem?
Yeah, so the biggest innovation is that data is essentially data portability, right? So when we solved this originally with crypto assets, it's like you can have like a single, like in our case, you can have a single blockchain domain name that points to like 50 different crypto networks, and the data is useful across multiple different wallets. But if you think about that, what's really happening is the user has data that they can take along to a bunch of different applications. And we obviously started with an easy use case because payments are native to crypto, but getting this to work for more complex data like health records is going to be much more complex and take more time. The point is that you can do this now on blockchain networks, and it's the reason why you can do this now. This is the reality, is that you can track the veracity of the information. Like you can know that it's true in different different environments, and that's something that you couldn't do prior to a blockchain. So the thing that Bitcoin solved was really digital scarcity, and that means that like if I send you a Bitcoin, you know that you have that Bitcoin. I didn't just make a copy of it on my computer or something like that. And this same thing applies to things like health records. And if you think about it, health records would be really bad if you could make a fake one, because then you can go into a doctor and you get like a fake prescription or something like that, or maybe you could have the wrong information because it gets corrupted. And so if you think about health records in a digital form, the same way that you think about like cryptocurrency in a digital form, it's very important that these health records are accurate, and that this is your set of health records, and that when I go to different providers, let's say I visit my family doctor, and then I go to my specialist, and let's say God forbid I get in a car accident, I end up in a hospital. When they pull that information about you, they need to know that it's accurate in all of those different settings. And so this is what blockchain does is for Bitcoin, which is the one that everyone knows, if I have Bitcoin in Eastern Europe or Argentina and send it to Australia, like I know that that's all the same Bitcoin. It's the exact same thing for things like health records, for the data about maybe your contacts and information that you carry with you, maybe your email address as you log into different applications. So what the decentralized web allows you to do is own your own data and then take it around with you across the internet. And that's the big vision. And the innovation that made that possible was Satoshi Nakamoto, when he launched Bitcoin back in 2009, was he actually made a system where you could feel confident about the truth of that data anywhere on the planet. And so that's what the decentralized web is going to do. And it's going to be much more diverse than just financial use cases.
Gotcha. So it's sort of like having that blue check mark next to your Twitter, but like on all of your assets, and then you own it instead of Twitter.
That's correct. And you got the big piece there at the end, which is you own it instead of Twitter. And the reason why Twitter owns it right now is because there's no other way to do it. And I talk about this all the time, but your social handles on these social networks are owned by those companies. Like you don't have any way to pull that data out from that company. You have no way to take your voice somewhere else. And so if you get, let's say that you want to move platforms from YouTube and you want to build your own video platform to go direct to consumers, you lose all that, all that contacts and I guess the followers and everything on YouTube, right? You lose all of that when you try to move to this new platform. And so what they're doing is creating really high switching costs in order to lock you in. But with data portability, which is part of what you get along with the decentralized web, there's no longer that lock-in for you as a producer online. And so you can take the data that you own and take it to a new app. So that way you can feel very confident in trying to build a business on top of it. There's lots of examples about, over the past 20 years of this happening on the internet. A lot of people built games on Facebook, for instance, and then Facebook would change the API, or they would build applications that work with Twitter, and Twitter would make an update to their API. And you hear about this. YouTube's another one everyone hears about. They make an update to the way that their ad policies work. And so because these platforms do not have data portability as a piece of their business, then they can be abusive towards users. And so I would just say fundamentally that all the things that you're interacting with online are not built for you as a user or a content producer. All of these systems are built on this ad model where some other person is getting paid. I would say the thing that drives me the most nuts recently is on YouTube. You may have noticed they now force ads on every video look. So like even if you're a content producer and you don't want ads, let's say that you're literally like you're a children's show and you're making these for your grandkids, right? And their school watches it. They now have to watch an ad on YouTube, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, I hate that. It's on Facebook too. Like if you want to watch a Facebook video like that your friend posts of like dumb stuff they did at home, you have to watch some corporate ad.
Yeah, it's crazy. No, that's totally nuts. I actually hadn't heard that one. So, and we need to get away from that. And I think everybody feels the need to move off. So we covered quite a few concepts there. So I'm going to just back up a little bit. So maybe I'll ask you a question or two. What do you, so like you said you bought some cryptocurrency before and, you sold it, you didn't know what to do with it. What can you imagine if you were able to own more things online? What are some of the things that you think you would be interested in owning on your own digital life? I'm actually curious.
Yeah. So for me personally, I don't know if you know this about me actually, but I've been a travel blogger for the last 4.5 years. So I have a travel blog website. Obviously, I'd love to own that. I have a personal website too. That's just my name. I have quite a following on Instagram, and I work with brands on Instagram. I don't like to call myself an Instagram influencer. There's just so much like I don't know. Yeah, you're never going to respect me again if I told you I was an Instagram influencer, but I do work with brands on Instagram. I have quite a following there, so I'd love to own that. So social media, websites, things like that. That's what comes to mind first.
Yeah, no, that's actually a lot of stuff. I didn't realize you were that involved. So basically, I can say that if you are a content producer and like, an influencer does that, through their Instagram account. So anybody who's producing content online should be interested about what's happening in the decentralized web, because we're going to enable you to get paid direct. And like you see things like Patreon, and Patreon was really cool when it first came out. And a lot of people did well there. And then, on the more risque side, your OnlyFans, we have to admit that it's also blown up over the past couple of years. And now these people are making a lot of money. And it's interesting because you can see them get rid of the middleman, right? In a lot of these industries. And that's one of the side effects of building new incentive structures. So we were saying earlier, like, you have data portability. So I guess at the very bottom, if you can own digital things, like you can own your Bitcoin, or you can, own your Twitter account or whatever. So if you can own your things online, then you can move them wherever you want. And that gives you data portability. And then if you have this data portability, you avoid the situation where you're getting locked into these platforms. And then that means you can compete them against each other to get rid of that middleman. And so that was one of the original memes for people in the Bitcoin space. And they were talking about how originally we really want to disintermediate banks. And that's a really big word, meaning like get rid of banks in the middle. Like, why can't I just loan money directly to people? And so the finance people who worked on Bitcoin, that was the big initial push. And the reason why why it came from finance is there's a lot of money being taken between you and your auto loan, your car loan, or you and your home loan, like your mortgage. There's a lot of, I mean, if you get a mortgage, you're going to pay $5,000 to $10,000 in origination costs. I mean, that's a lot of money. And so that's why the original hardcore cryptocurrency Bitcoin people, you'll see them coming from the finance industry because they see this charge that's happening to you all over the place. And just to give you some global perspective, global GDP, I don't actually know what the exact number is, but I know it's north of 10 trillion, but let's just say 10 trillion because we want a number. Global GDP, and then 2 to 5% of that is estimated to be these intermediary costs where there's a middleman taking a cut for helping to facilitate just a transaction. So it's literally trillions of dollars on the global economy, because 2 to 5% of the global economy is trillions of dollars per year. And this disintermediation is going to happen not just on these financial networks, but anywhere where people are exchanging things of value. And we think digital things are obviously going to be first. So I think that you're going to be, what I'm trying to say is your Instagram account is now living at Instagram, but in a future world, your Instagram account, you're at Diana Chen or whatever it is, you'll be able to move that to any type of management software you may want. You could even see like Patreon launching a competitor to Instagram, right? And then so now Instagram is just like, wait, she just left, and that's correct. You would just leave their platform. You would go over to some other one like Patreon, Instagram, or whatever, and they would offer you a better deal. Maybe they offer you a higher percentage of the ad revenue that they bring you. Maybe they make it, reduce the transaction cost for people to pay you directly. So these big companies aren't going to be. There's still going to be big companies that exist out there to build applications for people to interact with on the internet. The difference is the incentive structure inside these applications are going to be made so that content producers get paid more. And this is happening already on the internet. You see a lot of people trying to go direct to their end user to make money.
Okay, so then in that case, how will companies like Instagram and Facebook and even Google continue to exist? Like if I own my own Instagram and I own my own data, only I know who my followers are, only I know what their demographic is, then I mean, the whole like premise of these social media sites is they make money off of the data they collect from their users so that they can run ads. So without that data, like what do they even matter? What are they?
Yeah, so I'll actually cut those into two buckets. So I'll take the easy one first. So Google and search in general, that is already a service. So search as a service, like, you will pay in order to find the best piece of information. And then the way that this is showing up is on your phone with things like Siri, executive assistant, and these other types of models. And so I would put people like, anyone doing search in that into a different category, because yes, they are ad driven, but they're actually building really powerful AI to help you locate things. So I think that they'll be around for forever. Now let's move over to these social media network type things. I think they have a lot more of a problem because they get all of their value not from the great algorithm that they're writing, right, to help you find information. They get all their value because you are posting content, right, or your friend is posting content. So their business model is by design extractive, right? And whereas the search engine business model, there's hundreds of PhDs over there optimizing those search results. So search is going to be fine. Now these social media networks, they're going to have to find a new business model. And what I would tell you is, for people who've been around the internet a little bit longer, you may remember IRC channels, and they're still around, but you could have lots of different clients, or maybe most people remember AIM, Messenger, or AOL, or something like that. But what I'm trying to say is you'll have skins, right, for the different things that you want to use. So you can have the Facebook network or the Instagram network where all the users own their information, and there can be designs for that network so that it can all be read as a group. But then how the users see that network, how they interact with it, is the UI on the front end is going to be different for them. So like I was saying earlier, you could take your Instagram following from Instagram and then move to like Patreon Instagram, and then you could move to Twitter Instagram, or whatever. There would be lots of different front ends, and that means that those businesses are going to have to compete for you, right, to provide a better service. So what are they going to do? Maybe they will provide an analytics suite for you to better understand your customers. Maybe they will provide you more tools for posting better content. And and what I'm trying to say is, you'll have a lot more competition from these applications to make a better experience for you, the content producer, and they will compete to make tools to make that better. And the best example that people have experienced recently has been Snapchat. And you saw Snapchat, and they basically went head to head with Facebook, and there was so much innovation in filters. Like every day you wake up and there's a new filter, and they just kept building more and more and more and more tools for it to make it better and more fun for you to create content. And they'll do the same thing here for these. And then I think they're going to end up charging directly. Like subscription models are evolving on the internet. Everyone has a Netflix subscription. Everyone's paying for their Spotify, or at least most people are. You're starting to see people pay subscription for email, especially for privacy concerned individuals. Proton mail is becoming very popular among a certain demographic. So I think you're getting much more comfortable with digital subscriptions, and you're not going to mind paying for digital subscriptions in a digital economy where you own more of your data online, because you'll actually make more money from the content that you're producing online than you're paying in the subscriptions. I would say the majority of people now are net negative when they log on to the internet and they experience Facebook. They're actually giving Facebook more value by logging in and posting content than Facebook is giving them from the experiences they're getting on that website. So we're going to flip that around, where you get to keep 80% of the value, and then these apps are going to be making hopefully a lot less money.
So then do you also see in the future, once everybody's on the decentralized web, that content creators are going to be able to make a lot more money because they also have more channels of revenue intake? Like maybe Instagram, or like Patreon Instagram, or whatever the platform is going to pay me to get maybe I can like sell my Instagram analytics.
Yeah, you could potentially do that. I will just say, I think you will make significantly more money. And I would say already that the amount of money that people earning online is probably a tenth of what they should be earning. And like Spotify is actually a pretty good example. Pretty much any musician you talk to on Spotify will tell you, I am not being paid enough by this company, right? And then if almost any producer on YouTube will tell you, I am not being paid enough by this company, for posting my content here. And they're not all crazy. And in fact, I think they're all correct. And so like just because so many people are complaining about it, I think the value is literally 10x. The interesting thing is we actually have an industry where this just happened to very, very violently and quickly this past year. And it is the porn industry with OnlyFans. And this was like OnlyFans going direct to consumer has completely gutted that industry online, and they're making a lot less money than they used to. And then the content producers for this are making significantly more money than they were before. And this is still using an intermediary who's taking a 10% cut, and doesn't allow them to easily move their data around. Now it's a niche industry, right? So it's less likely to have a lot of competition. Google's not going in there trying to compete for that industry for a lot of reasons. So there's a little bit more room for innovative small companies like OnlyFans to come in and do a good job. But I think that once these technologies open up the markets for the more traditional industry, you're going to see that same type of thing happen all across the internet. I mean, Joe Rogan's podcast, I think it was what was it, 7, 8, 9-figure deal, right, with Spotify to move over. Yeah, I think that's the future. I would say the future is very bright for people creating content on the internet. So
that's good to hear. Sign me up now. When can we get when can we go live with this?
Yeah, when can we go live? So it is a process, and it is not a switch. And you're going to start seeing it go live piece by piece, and it's going to take decades. And I know this is very disappointing for people, but this is a long move, just like the move.
So you're saying I'm going to be an old lady by the time that people get to own their digital assets and make all this money off Instagram and I would have lost my appeal by then, and I'm just gonna watch the young people make money off Instagram when
You
I
can
couldn't
always
30
you,
years ago.
you can always switch to a cooking show. I hear those do really well. No, I would just say you'll start to own pieces of it. No, it's not going to happen tomorrow, um, but it is moving pretty quick. So I think in the next 3 to 5 years, you'll start seeing some larger players get into this and start using some of these technologies to give their users a little bit more control over their presence online. So you'll see PayPal just recently enabled users to buy and sell cryptocurrency inside of the app. Give them a couple more years. I think that they'll make it easier for you to transfer money using that cryptocurrency through those applications. You see Jack Dorsey at Twitter talking, very loudly about the importance of these decentralized technologies. You go 3 to 5 years in the future, we could see a significantly more decentralized version of Twitter with maybe even some governance because Twitter's constantly making someone very upset about something someone said on. It's basically like the world station where anyone can stand up and say anything crazy they want on Twitter, which is why I love it. So that I think they may innovate quicker than a lot of these other companies because they face a lot of pressures from having such racy content across their platform. So yeah, it's going to be, I would say, take some patience. The first place you're going to notice it is definitely going to be finance, and that's going to actually transform the way that you transact online. So there's going to be some pieces of your online experience you're going to start feeling immediately. I think we're actually pretty close to you starting to buy things online with cryptocurrency, maybe not in the US, but definitely internationally pretty frequently. There's a lot of places in the world where credit cards don't work. I think some of these credit card processors are only in 20 countries. There's 200 plus countries. So a lot of these emerging markets are going to see this first and early for buying these types of digital buying products online. And then digital products is another big one. So people who are gamers, you're going to start seeing this very soon. Gamers have been buying and selling Warcraft Gold for a decade, and it's always been overly complex. And you have to go through eBay, and the guy could rob you. But now you're going to be able to buy and sell your skins and your different items and equipment on these digital worlds, and you'll be able to do that directly on a blockchain without some sort of third party intermediary in between there. So you'll start to own more of the pieces. I hope that in the very near future, you'll be able to own your username on these on some social networks, probably not Instagram and Twitter, but there will be emerging social networks where they'll actually let you own that piece of the, you're at Diana Chen, they'll let you own that piece. And so that you have a little bit less lock in there. It's going to take time though. Just like the cell phone networks in the 90s, it took them a decade to build all the towers everywhere. I remember being a little kid and it seemed like there was a cell phone tower going up every 4 miles, just like a new one would go up on a new block in Atlanta where I grew up. We got the same thing that has to happen with the decentralized web. We have to build the pieces before it can be useful.
Gotcha. Okay. I feel like we need to do separate episodes on blockchain, crypto, so many things just came up. But so what are the steps? What can I do as just a normal citizen to get this process moving faster, if anything?
Yeah, well, I would say that I would encourage people to learn, right? Because it's a huge education process. So the first thing you can do is just go and dip your toes in, get a little bit of cryptocurrency, go check out some of the larger crypto apps and start experimenting, right? And it's just like the internet in the 90s. And it's really hard to predict all the things that are going to happen. But if you were early on in the internet and you learned how to set up your own website or do these other things, you got to experience a lot of things before a lot of other people on the planet. And so I think that I would just encourage you, the easiest way if you're in the US, open a Coinbase account, buy a little bit of crypto. Then I would open a browser tab. I'd go to one of these DApp rating services like DApp.com or that's a good example. I need to get them on and just look up some of these applications and then to start playing around with them. Go check out unstoppabledomains.com. Of course, I got to plug myself here at the end and get a domain name, launch a decentralized website, but start educating yourself because just like everyone was telling you in the 90s, like, hey, this internet thing could be pretty big. We're telling you today, this crypto thing could be pretty big. And there's going to be a lot of people who are quite entrepreneurial that come up with a lot of different ideas and they can help make this happen faster just by participating. And again, I think this thing is tailor made for content producers. So if they get in there and start thinking, I'm pretty sure they'll come up with some great ideas.
Yeah, that's why, Matt, I've been super into this ever since I heard about it from you, because I keep thinking about like, well, I have all these digital assets and you're telling me that I can own all of it. I mean, that means a lot to me, you know? So I feel like fully incentivized to sign up for this.
Well, we've got to make it easier for you to get a hold of those, and then I appreciate it, and we'll stay motivated, and we'll do another one of these. We'll go through this, and we'll keep talking about more ways that users can start learning about this new technology and how it could potentially change the way that they do things online.
Okay, great. Because I have a lot more questions to ask.
Perfect. All right. Well, I think we'll cut it there. And everyone, thanks again for tuning in to the Unstoppable podcast, and we'll catch you next week.